Right now, in Europe, a driver can walk into a dealership and order a production truck with 780 horsepower. Off the lot, nothing special about it. Walk into a dealership in America and order the biggest engine anybody will sell you, and you'll get 600. Now, before anybody types it, no, this is not because Europeans build better engines, and it's not because we can't. Detroit and Cummins and Cat have all built bigger than that, and you'll see plenty of trucks out here making a lot more than 600 after somebody's had a weekend with them. It's because of a decision. Somebody decided your truck doesn't need it. And once you understand who made that decision and why, you'll understand most of what's happened to this industry in the last 40 years. Let's be specific, because the numbers matter. Scania sells a V8 rated at 770 horsepower. Volvo went past it with the FH16 at 780. Those are catalog trucks. A fleet in Germany or a man in Sweden can just buy one. And on our side, the Detroit DD16 is the biggest on-highway engine Detroit builds. 15.6 liters, 600 horsepower, 2,050 pound-feet of torque. Cummins tops out right around the same place, so Europe is roughly 180 horsepower ahead at the top of the range. And here's the part that'll surprise you. They're getting it out of engines that are usually smaller than ours. Ask around, and the first answer you'll get is weight. And it's a real answer. It's just not the whole one. Our federal limit on the interstate is 80,000 pounds. That number has been more or less fixed for most of my career, and everything about how we build a truck is aimed at it. In Europe, a 5-axle rig runs about 88,000, roughly 10% more than we're allowed. Some countries go further than that. And up in Scandinavia, they're running combinations that would get you arrested in Ohio, well north of 200,000 pounds on approved routes. So yes, they're pulling heavier, so they need more engine. But hold on, 10% more weight doesn't explain 30% more horsepower. There's something else going on. Here's what the weight argument misses. It's not just how much you're pulling, it's where. Think about a run through the Alps. You're heavy, and the grade is savage, and it's short. You need to get up and over that pass without falling to 15 miles an hour and stacking up traffic behind you for a mile. That's a job for raw horsepower. Now think about a run from Kansas to Nevada. Long, mostly gentle, and it just does not end. You're not sprinting anything. You're holding a steady speed on a 2% grade for 600 miles and doing it on the least fuel you can manage. Those are two completely different jobs, and they want two different engines. That's why our engines are big and slow turning and make their torque way down low. They're built to lug, to sit at 1400 RPM with 80,000 pounds behind you and just keep going. European engines are smaller and spin faster and make their power higher up, because that's what a mountain asks for. Neither one is wrong. They're answers to different questions. But if you want the honest answer, it isn't engineering at all. It's who signs the check. In America, the overwhelming majority of new trucks are bought by fleets, and a fleet doesn't buy a truck the way you or I would. A fleet buys cost per mile. So somebody in an office runs the numbers. Extra horsepower costs money up front, and it costs money every single mile after that, because a bigger rating burns more fuel. Multiply that across 1,000 trucks over 1,000,000 miles each, and the fuel difference is enormous. That accountant is not thinking about how the truck feels on a grade. He's not thinking about whether you're proud of it. He's looking at one number, and that number says 450 horsepower is plenty to move 80,000 pounds across flat country at 65. And he's right. It is plenty. That's the whole problem. Nobody ever asked whether plenty was the same thing as good. Now, Europe has fleets too, and most European trucks are sold with sensible mid-range engines, same as ours. That 780 is not what the average man over there is driving. The difference is that Europe still has a market for the big one. There are enough owner-operators and small hauliers who choose their own truck, and for them a V8 badge means something. It's pride. It says you own this thing, you chose it, and you can afford it. Scania built that reputation over decades, and it still sells trucks. That's not an engineering decision. That's a market that still has room in it for a man who wants a nice truck because it's his. We used to have that market. It hasn't disappeared entirely. Go to a truck show and you'll see it alive and well, but the factory doesn't build for it anymore. The factory builds for the fleet. Now here's the part that always gets me. In Europe, heavy trucks are speed limited by law, around 56 miles an hour. That's not a fleet setting. That's the law on every truck. So all that horsepower, it isn't buying speed. They're not out there running 80. Every one of those 780 Volvos is capped slower than most of us are allowed to run on an American interstate. They're buying it so the truck doesn't slow down. So a loaded rig holds its speed up a grade instead of dropping into the right lane with the hazards on. So the driver isn't fighting the truck all day. That's it. That's what the extra power is for. Not going faster, just not going slower. And that is exactly the thing a spreadsheet has the hardest time putting a value on, because it doesn't show up as fuel and it doesn't show up as freight. It shows up as whether the man behind the wheel had a decent day. I want to be fair here, because there's a real argument on the other side. Our engines got quieter, they got cleaner, they last longer between rebuilds, and they get fuel mileage that would have been science fiction in 1980. A modern American truck at 450 horsepower will do things my old truck couldn't dream of, and it'll do it for 1,000,000 miles. That's not nothing. That's engineering working exactly as intended. But something did get traded away, and I don't think we ever voted on it. There was a time when a driver had some say in what he was driving. He picked his engine, he picked his gearing, he specced his truck around how he liked to work. Now for most drivers, the truck arrives. Somebody else chose everything about it, optimizing for a number that has nothing to do with your day. Europe's 780 isn't really about horsepower. It's about a market where somebody still asks the driver what he wants. So no, we're probably never going to see a 770 horsepower truck on a dealer lot in America. Not because we can't build it, because the people buying trucks don't want to pay for it, and the people driving them don't get a vote. Now I want to hear from you. What's the biggest engine you ever ran, and what did you have it spec'd at? And be honest, did you actually need it, or did you just want it? Because I just wanted it is a perfectly good reason, and I'd like to see somebody say it out loud. If you like digging into why trucks are built for buyers on one side of the ocean and drivers on the other, subscribe to the channel. I'm Dale, keep the shiny side up, and I'll see you down the road.